Good morning out there, traders. It is May 28th, 2024, and welcome to the Apteros Daily Market Insight. Let's get into it here with our recap. So kind of an interesting scenario we had coming into our last session, which was on Friday before the long weekend here. And it was an interesting scenario because we were talking about this bullish zone here and how that could have affected what was happening in this particular zone. And as I had labeled it out in the DMIs, I said that this bullish idea was dissonant up against this big bearish kind of block of information. And what ended up happening is we came up into that bearish line in the sand, got a really nice inflection coming into the open. That open really just didn't drive anywhere for the first, hour or so, and it didn't continue to the downside. We came back up into that line in the sand with a couple of inflections to the downside, no real continuation out of that area. And of course, after we blasted through it, coming up to the top area where we were mentioning that this particular zone here created an opportunity still for the bears from the up portion of this upper line in the sand, but it became a little bit more conflicted based on what was happening from the lower edge here, from this lower bullish zone. But still good opportunities to the downside from here. Good inflection here, a good inflection here that just didn't work out. And then you get up here and you start seeing the inflections come back, coming right down into the main target area, which would have been playing the areas between the line and the sand after the neutral area breaks down. So our reference is pretty interesting. Overall today, the bias wasn't as straightforward because of what was happening from the lows down here that we were mentioning in the DMI. But, nonetheless, even with a bias that didn't quite work out for us during the day, still great trade opportunities. Taking a look at what's going on today, in today's landscape, we're kind of stuck in a rotational zone here on a lot of our lower time frames. There's some decent confluence up here from the bearish side of things. Our bottom three time frames essentially have bearish information up at these highs. And for this market to continue, this is that lower idea that we were talking about on Friday. For this market to continue the upside, we're going to have to get through this bearish line in the sand area. So this bearish zone really is kind of the marker for today in terms of the main line in the sand, with our scenarios being pretty straightforward. Scenario one being a push coming from that line in the sand down to this first neutral area. If that breaks, possibly a peak down below into this bull zone down here. And that would be the main target overall for the scenario one, with an intermediate target kind of at that neutral zone. If scenario two happens, it gets a little bit more bullish overall in this market because we start heading back up into the highs, and there's pretty much just open space out there besides the highs all the way out into this into this neutral zone out here. So in the bullish scenario with scenario two, it would be a little bit more of a trending type of area or trending type of context, and we'd be looking out here into that 53.76 type of zone for continuation out into that area all the way above. Yeah, with that kind of being covered, that's our main line in the sand. That's really the plays out there in the morning. And essentially, we already have a kind of a general test of that line in the sand here. So in the immediate here and now, it's possible that this market coming into the open and so forth just kind of pushes down into that neutral area, and that would be kind of our first target. If we get the continuation down below, this would be an opportunity for continuation, like I said, heading back into this bullish line in the sand area. From there is where we kind of monitor where the bulls can come in from and if they break down even further. The expectation based on the context in this area, this is a kind of a rotational balanced area. The expectation is that the bulls kind of hold up here. So if they don't, that's information for us to the downside for a continuation play coming back into our main destination for our bigger time frame. If they do hold up, everything kind of remains rotational and they come back into the neutral zone in the upper area here, and everything kind of holds up in this kind of rotational or balanced area. All right, so that's kind of the full breakdown of the landscape there, along with our general scenarios for the opening of the line in the sand and all that stuff. So, trade well out there, mind your risk, and let's get after it.